So the child has been fed and allowing herself to be embraced and being lifted up. And she's talking some ears off up there. Now don't forget, and this one likes it, and this one, they like it this way, and that one don't. But maybe there's some very valuable knowledge here that, a little one like me, because I'm gonna come together. It's gonna be integrated here. She just had herself locked in that room, and nothing was getting through that door. Not a thing. But she's out now. She's okay. Being lifted up and dawdled over. Precious child. But it's little things in life. One example that pops into my mind is I'm just so aware of everything. And I wouldn't normally buy artificially dyed flowers. Like the party colored ones that look fake. That, they're grown in greenhouses, sprout real fast. Inject them with color, put them in, water with food coloring, however any particular place does it. And I lived in a place that you had to separate your trash. You had your recyclables, everything had different color bin. It was a law, man. It was the law. So I had come across these flowers, and if I remember correctly, because I wouldn't buy them, I'm in the habit of, if I happen at a store when the old flowers are being taken out and the person is stocking the new bouquets, like at a Dollar General, a convenience store, whatever, I'll ask him, those are going in the trash? They'll be like, yeah. I said, can I have a couple of the ones that aren't, And usually they'll say, yeah, but just a couple, or yeah, just one bouquet, And so I'll take those home. Because nobody ever buys me flowers. That's okay. I'm not living my life like nobody buys me flowers. But I'm God's little wildflower, by the way. So these flowers that are artificially colored, they look like they're plastic. I mean, the poor things. I had other plants and flowers and fruit and vegetable scraps, that were real, naturally grown, supposedly. Get them at the grocery store. So I go to put the flowers in there, and I sense the horror. They're like, no, I go in the trash. I belong in the trash. I'm like the plastic things. I'm not natural. I don't belong in with the natural stuff. I'm just like, there's separating of purposes. Like, something in me was saying that they don't belong in there because they're artificially colored, and you don't want that. I mean, I didn't have a garden. I wasn't, it's just, that's the compost pile. That's where it goes. But other times, like, I spent a lot of time in the national forest because that's how I was living, going from place to place. No place to lay my head, Like, yeah, sure. It happens. You end up just like him. But down this mountainside, travailing down the road, and there's waterfalls coming down the rocks. You're going down and down, and there's this little town in the cavern, and you go across the little river down there, and okay, it's rather big. It's a fast-flowing river, and you go to the little parking camping area, and nobody had been there because they had completely flooded out. That water was raging, muddy water, but we only have so much gas. That's where we were landing, whether we liked it or not. And I'd gotten to the custom of, if there were vines around, I'd make a little hoop and I'd leave them as a gift of appreciation. And I've read people, they go to national forests and stuff, and people are stacking rocks and they're complaining, you're messing with the ecosystem. Blah, 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 blah. Well, down in this particular crevice of the world, and I'm looking up at the mountains and the beautiful view. I usually don't record anything. I don't take pictures. I'm too engaged. I'm too present with my experiences, with my physical reality. It just doesn't occur to me. And yeah, that might have been born from, I don't think anybody cares anyways. But it turns out people did. My son had his own fan club. He had, some little girls from a friend's family who would follow his videos. What's he doing now? Where's he camping? And just the greatest time they had. They really appreciated the videos. But I'm looking up at these mountains, beautiful, covered in trees, like no lights anywhere. And I'm getting the sense, the message from the mountains and nature, and they're telling me how people, they just go take pictures and they feel raped. Now that's a harsh thing to say. They're taking part of the essence, they're recording, preserving a part of the essence of the mountain and taking it away from it so they can fawn over it. And it reminds me of my children and I coming out of a domestic violence shelter where creepy guy escaping. The house was broken into. Wake up to him standing over me. We're fleeing. I'm throwing up. My kid's throwing up. We are traumatized. We got to get someplace safe. And the guy with the angel flight, can I take your picture? My wife likes to see who I'm flying. She really likes to have pictures. I'm like, sir, I do not feel like having this. I do not want my picture taken. Least of all to be a trophy on some housewife's wall. I didn't put all those details, but I was like, no. But before we left, he had us stand there for the picture anyways. And that mountain felt like I did. To the extent that Mother Nature, the spirits of the earth, they appreciate the drunk drug addict leaving needles in cans behind the tree more than self-righteous people complaining about people appreciating nature, stocking it. They'd rather have the homeless, drugs, and drunk addicts there leaving their trash in the woods because they're living, they're engaging. They appreciate a good bush. They appreciate a sheltering tree. They appreciate berries in the woods. There's more appreciation coming out of those homeless, low-life, worthless, ungrateful, greedy, thieverous, whatever you want to call them. There's more appreciation for their environment than somebody who just wants to take a bit of its soul and say, I was there and isn't it beautiful? I can put this in my repertoire. Let me put it on Facebook. This is the elegant life that I live. No, it likes those of us who... This is a good, quiet campsite. I'm walking along the sandy shore of this raging river, and it's making so much noise. When I'm out in nature, I'm not lying. It's like the little Snow White and the Disney princesses out there. There's a beaver, he's going about his business, and he's just looking at me. And goes on. I'm a smoker. I'm giving it up. Man, it's been 30 some odd years. And one apartment building, it was, government funded. You had to go walk out to the sidewalk. You couldn't smoke on the property. So kids are sleeping. I'm walking out to the sidewalk. Through a herd of deer. They come and feed on the grass because it's nice and green and mowed. They don't have to go where it's dry. In Montana, the fields are sparse when it comes to the grass. just to fill their bellies, they'd have to travel like much further. They got to work harder for them calories. But on the grass, they could just stand in the same spot for hours and just get a little bit of fat on them. That'd be nice, right? So I'm walking out and I'm lighting up my cigarette. The deer are still all around me. There's the crow that talks to me every morning. And I worked in the nursing home down the road, so it just hop telephone poles the next road down and talk to me when I'd come out on my breaks. And it was a regular Walt Disney movie going on. But all of a sudden they'd lift their heads and they'd look a certain way and their ears would perk a certain way. And then all of a sudden the bolt and somebody's front door would open. They hear people in their houses. They know our routines. They know when you're coming out the door in the morning. But that's my relationship with nature, with the earth, with the environment. Scripture says if you want to get to know God, get to know the earth. And so it's those little things. So many people, they've got so much. You got to treat the sacred site like this. You got to treat this like this. You got to treat this like this. And I have channeled the spirits of a land, like Wolf Woman of Montana. She told me her whole story. And so I shared that story. So she had a voice again. They killed all her wolves. She no longer had the growl and the howl and the singing amongst her wolves. So I told her story. And so it's these little things that my little itty bitty child self is like, now make sure you remember, those flowers, they get really upset if you put them in the compost. They really feel like they belong in plastic. And I don't know, do you want to try and talk them out of it? Because that's going against their conscience. Do you really want to? And so she's up there lecturing. Now the mountains, don't just go there and take pictures and just build a little pile of rocks. Or just put your fingers in the dirt. Or just make a little hoop, or put the top sign on the ground. Here's a mark. I love you. I appreciate you. Everything is made out of source, out of God's body. That void is God's body. And so we are all made of it. And there's going to be a sense of awareness to absolutely everything we touch in our environment. Some gets too much, some gets too little. I don't know. But I do know there is consciousness in every cell of our being, in every leaf on every tree. Like, the trees, they're the ones who wished for the squirrels to carry their nuts off so that their babies could spread. And the birds, those are products of desires within creation. The snake is there because something in nature desired, and something desired that the worms were in there eating it up. Can you break this down? I need something to break this down for me. I'm still stomped at mosquitoes and ticks. I don't know. It says you should, don't eat the blood. But it's there. It's bringing our consciousness, a piece of our soul, back to the earth, sharing it with the animals. That's all I got on that. Because otherwise, it's biblically wrong. Violation. God's laws. They stop ticks and mosquitoes. But that's one of the essence of what I got. Like, if the earth has an idea of what it needs, like styrofoam, plastics, they tell you, it takes thousands of years. Mother Nature, Earth, desired, God in the earth, as earth, desired, we need something to break this down. There are caterpillars that eat styrofoam. Yep. There's, it can take care of itself. It knows. Doesn't mean we should go about abusing it, overwhelming it. That's bad. That's very bad. Respect, man. When I walk, I make sure I don't crush any flowers. I try to stay, the grass is going to spring back. I stay on the rocks where I can. Hey, Mr. Rock, I don't collect crystals. I don't use them for energy manipulation. I got awareness at some point that I could project energy into a crystal and I could empower it to do something. But I'm like, oh, why would I want to put healing in a crystal when I could just say, do you want healing? You okay with that? Here you go. That's just me. But these are the little things she's chattering the ears off of the angels, whoever's listening, so she feels loved, but mostly reminding herself, because she's so afraid she's going to get into that expanded state and she's going to forget, and she's going to be like the ones that just trample all over everything. So that's where that comes from. The fear of being like her mother. My mother killed kids. I'm just putting it out there. She only loved animals as much as they served her. They made her look good. Her horse was injured. Couldn't ride the horse. It was not right to ride that horse. But she would have the vet come, give it, I think, a cortisone shot, something to its leg so it would not feel any pain. And she rode that horse anyway. She paid for it. She's going to ride it. And it's a brown horse with a black mane and tail. And it's Arabian. And that's what she wanted. And she was going to ride that horse. See, you get so busy not wanting to be like something, you don't allow yourself to be what you truly are. Maybe come to a compassionate understanding. The way she drove me was probably the way her mother drove her, and she inherited that attitude, and she had to embody it, because in her day, and she was my age, we're talking about the 40s, the 50s. She was probably born in 1950. It was a whole different world. Roman Catholic, born, raised, everybody, first generation in the United States, kind of Roman Catholic, French, and German. Like, there were ways you behaved and ways you did not. So, understanding and compassion, I finally let go of the mommy issue, but now I'm discovering how much I was still holding on to. I wouldn't allow myself to ascend, to embody the fullness of my divine nature, because I was so afraid that I would not take everything into consideration and be compassionate and understanding, which is a real fear when we're young and we have such a sense of justice and this should change, this needs to stop. Well, cut them off. Who? Have their neighbors murder them. See? All comes around. Put them in prison. Lop their heads off. Lop their hands off. Take their knees off. Take their feet off. Cut that ear off. Poke that eye out. Cut off that nose. Yank out them teeth. Sometimes we just gotta remind one another who we are. Remember when you were a child? Remember how much you loved that? Maybe you don't want to be squashing it like that right now. Just say it. Give it a chance. So, yep, this is what happens if you're going through a phase where, especially those of us who have been disassociated so that we could be possessed and used for breeding stock and this and that, and don't want to talk about it. Unless we have to. You might be going through this. A part of you might have gotten left behind. It was hating the part of you that was out doing stuff and afraid to do stuff and, you know, oh yeah, you're going out there now. You got God's favor. Well, guess what? I'm getting out there too. I'm opening this door. The kingdom of God, man. It has entertainment value in the least. This is very serious stuff. You know I know that, right? Should have made my friend cry today. I just tell her, I mean, tears. I love this woman so much. Can I tell people? It's like, and then I look over and her eyes are like, oh shit. We make grown people cry. That's what we do here. We make grown people cry. Or not. You don't have to. Can you see there's joy? I guess that's the point. There's joy here.